Guitar finally started to click for me when I forced myself to learn minor chords, especially the ones I'd been avoiding. Hey, it's Mark from MTWL, and I'm back with another lesson to help you level up on guitar. When I started out, I hit all the usual walls: self-doubt, discouragement, feeling like I wasn't making any progress. And if I'm being real, the one chord that almost broke me was the B minor chord. Now, most beginners dread the F chord, but for me, B minor was the one I kept running away from. Every time I thought I had it down, it fell apart as I performed mid-song. But once I pushed through and learned how to actually practice it, not just avoid it, that's when everything started to change. Today, I'm going to show you the exact method that I used to go from frustrated to confident, and how you can use it to master any chord you've been stuck on. So if you've been following along with my other videos, you already know the major chords in the key of G, G, C, and D. And sure, you could play hundreds of songs with just those three, but let's be honest, those all have that happy sound. But the songs that we really connect with, they usually have a bit more tension, emotion, and mood. And that's where minor chords come in. Today, we're unlocking the missing piece, the chords that add depth, feeling, and variety to your playing. These are the minor chords in the key of G. And once you have them, you'll be ready to play real songs that sound full and emotional, not just basic. So here's what we're diving in today. We'll start with the standard version of the C chord shape. More on that later, because it's going to help you out with your chord transitions way easier. Then we'll learn the three minor chords in the key of G. Those are E minor, A minor, and B minor. I'll show you some movable shapes that will make learning these new chords way faster. And finally, I have some bonus chords to show you today, so make sure that you stick around for the end. Now, I wasn't planning on this, but we're only 2 chords away from knowing your second key, which is the key of C. So if you stick around to the end, I'll show you the 2 extra chords that will unlock a whole new set of songs for you to play. I'm going to warn you, some minor chords can be tricky, so I've updated my free chord diagram PDF to make things a little easier. You can grab it here with the QR code on my left, or you can click the link in the description. It includes every chord that we've covered so far, plus today's new shape. And if these videos are helping you connect the dots on guitar, hit the like and subscribe to keep learning with me. I know that some of you have been watching on TV, but no worries. There's a QR code for that, and that will be here on the right side of your screen. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I want to show you what is known as the natural chord shape for playing C. This will make it easier to play between 2 chords, which is the C and the E minor. So typically, when you're playing a C, I showed you to play it like this, which is basically a C add 9. But if we shift our fingers, I want you to put the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and your index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. I want you to play everything except for the low E string. See how it sounds more open? Now, the first minor chord that I'm going to show you today is the E minor chord, which is normally played like this, with your middle finger and ring finger on the 2nd frets of the A string and the D string. Instead of playing it that way, I want you to learn how to play it with your index finger and your middle finger. So index finger on the 2nd fret of the A string and your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. Same chord shape, I just want you to play it with different fingers. And the reason being is, if you analyze the notes that are in the E minor chord and the C chord, they have a common note, which is the 2nd fret on the D string, which is also an E. In most songs, you might play a chord progression like in the key of G, where you'll play a G, then you'll play an E minor, and then you'll play a C. Now, if you look closely, when I play a C, I lift up my index finger, place it down on the 1st fret of the B string, and I place my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. The reason for this is so that your transitions are more smooth and you can move quickly between the two. So one of the things I want you to practice is moving between the E minor chord and the C and vice versa, because there are multiple songs where you could play a chord progression moving from an E minor to a C, or you can play a chord progression where you're moving from a C to an E minor. And here's an example of the common chord progression. So I'm playing a G, I'm going to E minor, then I'm finally going to a C, then to a D, back to a G. The second chord I'll be showing you today is the A minor chord. Now, this one is another one that I want you to practice moving between A minor and C, because there are multiple chord progressions that move happens all the time. So if you take a look, I want you to put your index finger on the first fret of the B string. I want you to put your ring finger on the second fret of the G string. And I want you to put your middle finger on the second fret of the D string. And then play all the strings except for the low E. Doesn't that sound very cowboy-ish? It's a very pretty chord. Like the E minor chord, it does have a common note like the C chord, so it's easy to move between the A minor chord and the C chord. The only thing that I'm changing is the ring finger. I move it from the second fret of my G string down to the third fret of the A string. Now watch that again. And again, just like I said for the E minor chord, you want to practice moving between those two. So A minor, C, back to A minor, C, then you can go to E minor, back to C, and finally A minor. Now finally, the dreaded chord that I hate playing all the time. So now we're jumping into the territory of bar chords. And I don't want to scare you off. Bar chords are really not that bad. Here's a trick that I taught myself how to play the B minor chord by using and leveraging the shape of the A minor chord, because it's basically just the A minor chord moved down 2 frets. If you take a look, I know I showed you the shape of the A minor chord is this. But if I flip around my fingers and actually use my ring finger and pinky finger instead on the D string and the G string, and then I use my middle finger on the first fret of the B string, I still get the same ringing out of the chord. That's A minor. But if I move that shape down 2 frets, 1, 2, an easy way that I taught myself how to play the B minor chord is to place my index finger on the second fret of the high E string and play everything except for the low E and the A string. See how it still sounds open and full like I played my A minor chord? If this is not comfortable for you, trust me, keep working at it, because the alternative is actually playing the bar chord. Although this is accurate, all I'm doing is moving my index finger from the second fret of the high E string, but I'm barring it all the way across and hitting the B note that's on the second fret of the A string, and making sure that the second fret of the E string is getting played as well. Now, usually when I'm playing this, I have no clue what my problem is. I can be playing a song, no problem. But for some reason, when I move from any chord, maybe I'm moving from a G to a B minor, my transitions are not smooth at all. But this trick definitely helps me figure it out, especially if I'm in a playing setting. It's an easy way for me to go ahead and play all the chords, all the notes that need to be rung out at the same time. So I can go. Now, before we jump into practice tips, I've got 2 bonus chords that you won't want to miss, and these will help you unlock a whole new key. So my practice tip for today is that we want to build muscle memory, and we do that by plugging these chord progressions into songs. So a popular chord progression could be, I might be playing from a G down to an E, then I move to a C, and then I go to a D. Now this part is in dozens of real songs. I want you to find songs that particularly move you and inspire you to play, and memorize these chord progressions because they do pop up in different songs. So if you learn these chord progressions that are popular, like say an Ed Sheeran song, they do pop up in other songs. They might just be played slower, or they might be played a little bit faster. And as you grow, you can apply these same tricks to other songs again and again. Here is a list of some of the songs in the key of G that I recommend that you play. If you'd like to learn how to play them, I usually recommend that you use Guitar Tab's app to find these, but as an added bonus, I will add them to my Google Drive for when you download the free PDF. So before we move forward, I want to take a second to celebrate the progress that you've been having so far. Because with 2 more chord shapes, you won't just know the key of G anymore. You'll also know the key of C. And you'll be able to play songs in the key of C, and that will open up a whole new world of different songs that you can play and practice. So again, like the B minor chord, we're going to teach the dreaded F chord. Now, don't be intimidated with this one. Like with the B minor chord, and I showed you this trick. We're going to take that same concept, but we're going to learn how to do it with the F chord. So if you notice, when I played the B minor that time, my index finger barred the high E and the B string, but I only played the note on the high E because my middle finger is playing the 3rd fret of the B string. Same concept. So if I bar the 1st fret, the high E and the B string, and then I do like the step ladder approach. So every string after that, I'm going to go to the G string. I'll place my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. And then I'm going to place my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. If you want, you can replace that with your pinky and then move your ring finger over to the 3rd fret of the A string. That is what a full F chord is. But I play it with my ring finger instead, because if you haven't learned about me now, I am all about simplifying my movements as I play. So if I play my F chord like this with just my ring finger, my middle finger, and my index finger, I can easily move up and play the C chord by moving my ring finger and middle finger up to their positions. So this is a C, this is my F, this is my C, this is my F. The next chord that you need to know in order to play the key of C is the D minor chord. Now, you can also use the same trick that I showed you earlier. You can use that same trick that I showed you for A minor, B minor. But if you move your index finger down to the 5th fret and the whole chord, that's your D minor. But I want to show you the trick that I use, because if you're playing in the key of C, of course you want to stay in this area. So go back to the shape that I showed you for F. All I want you to do is lift your ring finger up and move it down to the 3rd fret of the B string. Now this one might be a little uncomfortable, but this is your D minor chord. Otherwise, you can lift your ring finger totally and just have your 1st finger barring the high E and the B, and then your 2nd finger, your middle finger, pressing on the 2nd fret of the G string. That is a D minor 7. We can get into that a little bit later, but an easy way for me to transition between the chords, I can do a D minor 7 to a F to a C to a G, and those are all the chords that are in the key of C. Oh, and I'm forgetting, the other one that we learned today was the E minor. Today's lesson was a lot. With the chords you've learned so far, we now know G, C, D, E minor, A minor, B minor, F, and D minor. And now you can play both in the key of G and in the key of C. That's not just progress, that's real momentum. And that's the foundation for real songs. Most players never get this far, but you did. And more importantly, you did it on purpose. So that deserves a serious round of applause. Today we've covered the minor chords in the key of G, some of the movable shapes, and even unlocked the key of C. Now that's real progress. So let's go play. Practice the transitions, plug these chords into real songs. Don't worry if it sounds messy. Let it sound like you're learning, because this is where real guitar playing begins. And truly, I want to thank every last one of you for the views, the comments, and the support. I didn't expect any of this when I started off, and I'm incredibly grateful. Don't forget, grab the free chord sheet if you haven't already. It's on the screen and it's in the description. And if this journey is helping you out, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe so that we keep learning each week. Until next time, keep playing, keep learning, and keep showing up.